Let's get right into it. There's a question that's probably been driving you nuts because it's puzzling millions of us across the UK. Wholesale gas prices, they've been falling for months. So why on earth are our electricity bills still so high? It feels completely backwards. And today, we're going to figure out exactly why.
Right, this is the core mystery we need to unpack. You see the headlines, you hear the news about gas prices dropping, but then your bill lands on the doormat and the numbers, they just don't add up. It's a paradox that's hitting every single one of us in the wallet.
And this just lays it out in black and white, doesn't it? On one side, you have the cost of the raw fuel that generates a massive chunk of our power, and it's plummeting. But on the other side, the bill you actually have to pay is staying stubbornly high, or even going up. So what on earth is going on?
To get to the bottom of this, we have to start with the very foundation of how we buy and sell electricity in Great Britain. And it turns out the market itself is, well, it's running on an old and frankly broken operating system.
Okay, so stick with me here, because this is where it gets a little weird. Every 30 minutes there's an auction. Power plants, wind, solar, gas, you name it, they all bid to supply electricity. Now the system buys from the cheapest sources first, which makes sense. But here's the absolutely crucial flaw. Look at step 2, the price from the most expensive generator we need to meet demand. That sets the price that everyone gets paid. So think about that. Even if a wind farm offers to sell power for next to nothing, it gets paid the same, much higher price set by an expensive gas plant. And if that wasn't enough, there's often a second auction where the grid operator has to pay even more money to manage bottlenecks in the system. It's a mess.
Greg Jackson, the CEO of Octopus Energy, puts it perfectly. He calls it a, quote, perverse Groundhog Day every half hour. The exact same broken, inefficient process just repeats itself 48 times a day, costing all of us a fortune. But believe it or not, this bizarre auction system, that's only the beginning of the story.
You see, that broken market is just one piece of the puzzle. It turns out the actual energy you use, that's not even the biggest part of your bill, not by a long shot. The rest of it is packed with hidden costs that have been piling up for years and years. Just take a look at this breakdown of a typical bill. The wholesale energy, the electricity you actually use, is only about 40%. A whopping 60% is made up of other stuff. You've got network costs to maintain the wires, operating costs, VAT, and this huge slice for various government policy levies, which are basically charges to fund all sorts of energy projects.
And that brings us to the crucial point. Our electricity bills have become what people in the industry call a dumping ground. For decades, it's just been a convenient place for governments to hide the costs of all kinds of policies, big infrastructure projects, and what some people would call expensive boondoggles.
And here is a jaw-dropping example of that. The UK has committed something like £22 billion to carbon capture and storage projects. Now, critics will tell you this is a technology that's hugely inefficient, hasn't really worked anywhere in the world, and does very little for emissions while making our electricity way more expensive. And guess what? You're the one footing the bill.
Okay, so that's all pretty depressing, I know. But here's the good news. There are solutions. And they start by using modern tech to build a much smarter grid, one that can actually create energy bargains for you and me.
So the old grid on the left assumes our demand for power is totally fixed, so the price just stays flat. But the new grid on the right flips that whole idea on its head. With tech like smart meters, our demand can become flexible. Imagine your electric car just knows to charge itself overnight when all the wind turbines are spinning and electricity is incredibly cheap, almost free. Our demand can actually follow the cheapest power.
And let's be crystal clear about this. This is not about rationing. No one is going to tell you when you're allowed to use your washing machine. It's the exact opposite. It's about giving you the choice. Think of it like a supermarket, putting a big yellow sticker on the bread it needs to sell before closing time. If you want the bargain, you can grab it. If not, that's totally fine too. It just makes the whole system smarter and more efficient for everyone.
And what makes all of this flexibility possible? Well, it's the biggest game changer of all. It's a piece of technology whose price has fallen off a cliff, but for some reason, our official planners seem to be completely ignoring it. Large-scale battery storage.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It is absolutely staggering. 12 years ago, a kilowatt-hour of battery storage cost about $1,000. Last year, it was down to $100. This year, the cheapest on the market is just $62. That is a nearly 20-fold price drop, and it's still falling. Batteries are now an unbelievably cheap way to store green energy for when we need it.
So you'd think our national energy planners would be all over this, right? Well, you'd be wrong.
The UK's official plan for what our grid should look like in 2030 assumes a battery price of $350. No, that is not a typo. It's nearly 6 times higher than the actual price today for a plan that's meant to look a decade into the future. It's just mind-boggling. As Greg Jackson says, basing our entire future energy infrastructure on these wildly outdated costs, it's like building shopping centers just as the internet's been invented. We are literally planning for a world that doesn't exist anymore, and we're spending a fortune to do it.
So let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just a UK problem. There is a global race happening right now to electrify economies. And to be blunt, we are falling behind.
Just look at this comparison. While the UK, Europe, and the US have all been kind of stuck, with our economies being about 20 to 25% electrified, China has surged ahead to 34%, and it's still accelerating. They are shifting their entire economy on the cheap, clean electricity way faster than we are.
And it's not just about using it, it's about inventing it. China now holds an incredible 75% of all clean energy patents in the entire world. They are developing and deploying the technologies of the future at a scale that just dwarfs the rest of us combined.
So really the whole thing boils down to this. Every country is facing a choice. Do you lock yourself into mature, stagnant, fossil fuel technology, or do you embrace the future of exponentially improving, ever cheaper electrical technology? The more we invest in that old system, the harder it's going to be to cash in on the incredible cost savings of the new.
Which leaves us with this final critical question. When you put it all together, the outdated market, the slow adoption of game-changing tech like batteries, you have to ask, is the UK really adapting fast enough to compete, let alone win, the great energy race of the 21st century? The answer to that is going to determine not just the size of our bills, but our entire economic future.